over there.
That's the rumor we'd heard, Granny.
Yes, sir, I can't tell you how glad I am to be back in continent.
Granny, that didn't sound quite right.
Granny, listen, what were you doing overseas for so long?
Well, as I'm trying to find my homeland, I want to see where I was born, fellas.
Homeland? Oh, where is that?
Caesarea.
Caesarea.
Wait a minute, Granny, I've never even heard of any place called Caesarea.
My mom always told me I was Caesarean. No offense to the C-section.
Granny, listen, this is kind of a tree we had no idea. You know, it's kind of surprising you got back into the country as easy as you did. Did you know somebody? Because all the borders are shut down.
Yeah, it's tough.
Russell did it all for me.
Oh, Russell Moses.
He flew me into Nebraska. He thought I was a feeder cat or somebody. He flew me into Nebraska.
Is that right?
As soon as I got off the plane, they took my temperature. The fella said it had a high fever of 98.7.
Now, wait a minute.
Wow, on your deathbed, huh?
No, that's
So they threw me into quarantine.
wait a minute, Granny, they threw you where?
In Nebraska, it's corn. Team.
Threw her into quarantine.
Granny, now come on, they were probably just taking precautions and
They
precautionary
took a lot of
measures.
stuff, but right away they threw me on one of the perspirators.
Little respirator.
And I was dilated to a 5.
Why was
I
there?
don't know why.
Granny, listen, it looks like you're in good health. They've released you. And, you know, we were just reminiscing about your storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
You remember back when you'd get the kids up around the stage, you would do some storytelling. Do you remember that?
I'm just clearing some slobber. What's up? I said I was sharing it.
Granny.
We're sharing. Now, what? Where were we?
Well, Granny, we were going to maybe have you tell some stories if you could.
That's a good idea. We should give a Terryville to these people right now.
No, wait a minute. Now, Granny, you need to take a deep breath.
What'd you call it?
You just need to focus. Now,
Don't you mean you want to give them a fairy tale?
No, we're going to give them a Terryville right now.
Granny, listen, if you could keep things straight, maybe you could tell some stories. Now, maybe we could play backup.
Yeah, we'll give you backup.
Backup is a great idea. Yeah, back up. Back up.
Hey, what are you backing up?
Get over there.
Damn it,
You guys are good at backup.
What are you talking about?
Wow, she waves that stick around like it's some kind of lightsaber or something.
Easy does it there, Granny. What's the matter with you? What? Granny. What are you doing? Granny, what are you doing?
That's a perspirator. No, it's Mark Dater from the movie War Stores.
You are mixing your words up. I can't understand.
You're all right now. Shut up and pay attention. Once upon a while, in a corn country, there lived a beautiful girl, and her name was Rinderfella.
Oh, Cinderella.
Rinderfella lived with her muggly other and her 2 sad blisters. Rinderfella was in charge of all the wordy dirt. She had to flop the moors and pick up the pog dupe and wop the chud.
All right, Granny. What are you talking
She was a good chud whopper. But when she did all this wordy dirt, her 2 sad blisters sat on their fig bannies, cheating oplets and magging a Rita Zane. You believe that? Exactly. Now, in this same corn country, there lived a very pransome hens. Very pransome. He was on the cover of QG. Now, this pransome hens was going to have a fancy fall, so he invited people for riles and mounds, especially the pitch reaple. So Rinderfella's muggly other and her 2 sad blisters, they went out to buy some dancy fresses for the fancy fall. But Rinderfella couldn't go. Oh, she had to wear some old ruddy dags. So she just sat down and shrine. There's a gas leak in here. But she was getting there, the shrine, and knowing her blows. When all of a sudden there was a blinding flash of light, and there appeared before her, her Gary Mudfather, glowing like the sun and wearing a pink poo-poo.
Granny, you shouldn't say that. It was a tutu.
Poo-poo.
Granny, it was a tutu. You know,
Poo-poo.
you know better. It's a tutu.
There's your poo-poo.
Now he touched Rinderfella with his magic wand. Ooh. Dingy, 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 dingy.
Thanks. I'll be here all week.
No joy. He touched Rinderfella with his magic wand, and all of a sudden appeared before her a kid boach and Hicks-like sources to carry Rinderfella to the Fancy Falls.
What are sources?
The Uber guy was busy. But he said, "You must be home before midnight, or I will puff and I'll huff and I'll hoe your blouse down."
Granny, I think you switched over to a different story, didn't you?
Did I cross over?
Well, judging by the way you're dressed, I'd say yes.
That was from the P. Little Thrigs. Yeah, the story of the big wet buff. He said, "You must be home before midnight, or I will turn you into a pumpkin." That's what he said. So Rinderfella went to the Fancy Fall, and the first two people she run into, her sisty ugglers. But she was such a babishing Rudy, you could hardly cinderize Reckonella.
Who's Rudy?
Shut up. Now eventually the Prince of Myth, he found his way over to Rinderfella, and he tapped her on the shoulder and said,
Granny, we couldn't understand you.
Couldn't understand a word of that.
and then he took his mask off. And said, "May I dab this hand?" That's what he said.
Wow, she's a vase.
Downright sexy.
Ow, Granny!
I'm a cougar.
And she went to BYU.
Rinderfella said yes, and they danced all night till midnight, and they lay in fun. It was like they got shot with one of Pukett's arrows. He's shooting arrows at me. Is he peacefully protesting?
Mostly.
But when the mid-clock struck night, Rinderfella and a dad mash staced down the rares.
He's got another toy.
That was lovely. But it sounded like you were stacing up the rares. We're stacing down the rares.
Who's doing the other way?
Rinderfella and a dad mash staced down the rares. wasn't a slinky. One more
One
time.
more time.
Rinderfella in a dad mash stays down the rear. She was fast that time. She must have been riding toilet paper.
Hi-ho, Sharman, away!
Rinder. My hair was in my mouth, right? Rinderfella stashed down the rares, and when she beached around him, she slopped her dripper. She did. Now the Pransome Hens, he found the last glipper, and he held it high above his head and said, "Scarlet pearl, who sucked this flipper? Cats!" Shall we?
Granny.
Huh? What do you want now, Spanky?
Say it again. She didn't get it.
I didn't, none of us got it.
Scarlet pearl, who sucked this flipper? Cats!
That didn't help.
Can she hear? Shall be my wedded wife.
Wedded wife.
Did you get that one? So the very next day, the Pransome Hens searched all over the corn country with the beautiful girl who slopped her dripper. When he arrived at Rinderfella's house, he tried to slice glipper on her mug leather. Didn't it? Then he tried to slice glipper on her two sissy uglers. Didn't it damn either. They couldn't even get their tick bow in. But when he tried to slice glipper on Rinderfella,
Yeah.
the foosh!
My word, you almost blew that big time, Granny.
What's the matter?
Granny.
What do you mean, what's the matter? You are getting out of it. You know what?
What?
You need to straighten up.
Yeah, let's get down
Fine.
here. Wow! Granny, stop that. Now that's it. What do you think you're doing, for heaven's sakes? Granny, stop that.
Granny, they will never be able to unsee that. For heaven's sakes, you can't do stuff like that and talk that way up here.
It's fine, eh?
Granny, this is a family show.
Well, I'm part of the family.
Granny, you need to come up with a better way to say that stuff. Now, come on.
Easy there,
I
Granny.
think I just got cussed out in cesarean.
When he tried to slice glipper on Rinderfella, it dipped. That better? It was just a sight rise. So Rinderfella and the Pransome Hens were married and lived happily after afterwards. Now the story of the story is, if you want to go to a fancy ball and have a Pransome Hen lull deeply in fun with you, don't forget to slop your dripper. Good night now, we'll see
Granny, don't pick that, it'll never heal.
Folks, we will apologize for that. We had no idea she was even here.